So I wanted to make this for my kids. I've had some disagreements about the homosexual lifestyle. And it's not that I hate the homosexual lifestyle, and it's not that I hate my kids. Of course I love my kids. But my son today said, well, nobody in our house likes you because you don't like trans people. And I said, I like and I love many trans people. I just feel like instead of transing a kid, and giving them medical treatment at an early age, before they can even get a tattoo, before they can even get a suntan at a tanning salon, I just don't believe that transing kids is a good idea. If they want to, cut their dick off when they're 18, if they want to, take hormones or whatever when they're 18 or above, doesn't bother me what adults do. And adults can make their own decisions. I just feel like it's risky knowing that, after a person transitions, they are 47% more likely to commit suicide than any other person. They have the highest suicide rates in our nation, in the United States. And, a kid that just goes through normal puberty without puberty blockers or hormones has a 0.1% chance of suicide, but a trans person who goes through medical treatment, has a 47% likelihood of suicide. And so, as the studies go, if you just let the kids go through their puberty naturally and then figure it out after they're 18 or 19, usually they settle into their biological sex and they're not altering their body and then having regret 7 years later. Because the peak suicide rates for trans people doesn't hit till 7 years later. That's the peak, of when suicidality is a factor. But, trans people by and large are just more likely to commit suicide. And the studies show that most trans people, if not all, have already underlying mental health issues that present themselves as gender dysphoria, from schizophrenia to OCD to even autism. And so I feel like going to a gender-affirming therapist or a doctor is probably the worst idea to do. Going to a regular, non-gender-oriented, non-activist doctor is probably better to do it first anyway. And while the kids are teenagers until they're 18, to go through, a typical evaluation and therapy sessions and try to figure out the mental health issues and diagnose those than it is to just jump right into transitioning a child. So I don't hate trans people and I don't dislike them. And there's many that I like and many that I love, but I just feel like it's dangerous to alter children in any way. I, for myself, had tattoos on me when I was 12, and then 14 I got one on my head. And by the time I was 17, I realized getting a job in the career field I chose would be difficult with spider tattoo on the side of my head or whatever, all the tattoos on my hands and arms and feet and legs and whatever. So I went through a removal process at age 17 because I had regrets about altering my own body. So this is where my experience comes from. It's not from being naive, or uneducated or unexperienced in the issue of body modification. I went through it myself. So I wrote an article. My son says, yeah, okay, I'll wait a few minutes so ChatGPT can do the work for you. But what it was based on an article that I wrote in 2016. I didn't get ChatGPT till 2023, but it's based on an article and a video that I made with my own words, without a script, off the cuff, from my heart. And the title was, Hate is Unproductive, Homosexuals Are Not Our Enemy. And so because these are part of my history, things that I wrote in videos that I made long before my kids ever had any questions or any issues with gender dysphoria or homosexuality or any of this, right? I made these videos and was defending other friends and family of mine. And that was in 2016, April 9th, I believe, of 2016. But then I also made videos in 2008 defending gay marriage when Proposition 8 was a factor in California. So before gay marriage was legalized, I was a proponent of letting gays get married, allowing the rights of people who are gay to be the same as the rights of people who are heterosexual. I was fighting for gay rights. Now, I've always maintained that that's not my tribe, that's not what I'm into. You know, I don't go to gay bars, I don't hang out in gay clubs, I don't, surround myself with gay people, because that's just not my thing. But I don't reject them. If I find myself working with a person who's gay or trans, I work fine with him. Sensible Washington, when we did the petition drive to legalize cannabis in Washington, I worked with a trans person and we were friendly. And we had in-person, face-to-face meetings. We had lunch together. We, enjoyed each other's company, and it was good. No problem. And so, that's been my experience. I spoke at my gay friend Tony's funeral in 2000, in the year 2000, which was 2 years before I met my ex-wife, who was a good friend of mine. And I lived with him. We all lived in the same house. My friend Terry let us all live there. And I got to know him, and he was a good friend, and I had respect for him. And I was invited to speak at his funeral, and I did, in Orem, Utah. So it's not like I have this I'm going to take down the gay people, this gay. It's not like that. I don't really have any opposition to them. But here's the thing that I want to express to my kids. When they think that I don't like gay people or that I somehow worry about them being gay. Now, in this video, I did say that I did worry about them being sucked into this lifestyle, which has become more of a fad lately. We saw that with the trans, non-binary issue, that, it surged during COVID, right? You can hear Jeffree Star talk about that everybody just got bored off their asses and started creating new things, and that's when this, they, them thing came up. But in 2022, it started to decline dramatically. So it increased, it surged for 2 years. And then long before Trump got elected the second time, long before he even ran the second time, the surge cooled off. Not only did it cool off, but there was a sharp decline. And now college-aged kids identifying as trans has dropped in half. And that started long before Trump got elected. That started in 2022. So the reason why it worries me is that, AIDS, 72% of new HIV cases come from 2% of the population, which are gay men. 57% of all AIDS cases in the United States, over 500,000 people who have AIDS, HIV, are gay men. And so that's 2% of the population, right? And the rest, the 98% of the population, total have a less infection rate than just the 2% of the population. That alone is scary to me. But it also, alienates my kids from the rest of society. Not only are they alienated from me because their mother has spoke horrible things about me since we got divorced and has intentionally tried to separate me from my kids, telling them I'm this, I'm that. And this started, the year we got divorced, and my kids kept coming to me, even on camera, even on my DVR in my car, they said this. In their therapy sessions, they said this, that it seems like mom wants them to pick sides. Mom says horrible things about dad. I can't believe this, I can't believe that. It's untrue, dad's not like this, dad's not like that. Anyway, that's a fact. It's on my archive, my internet archive. And anyway, so beyond being alienated from me, 2% of the population are gay males, 4% of the population are LGBT, right? And so that means their dating pool is 4% of the population. They're not getting the best of the best of the best when they're only competing in a small and shallow dating pool. They have to settle for whatever's in that 4% or 2%, if they're gay, because they're only going for the one gender. So that alienates them from either 96 or 98% of the rest of the population, and they have to pick from a smaller dating pool, and they have a lot less in common with the rest of society, because it is such a major thing. Like there's this cancel culture, and if you're not on board with everything LGB or T, then you're canceled. We saw that with numerous very, like J.K. Rowling, who wrote Dumbledore as a gay character in her books, the Harry Potter series, who's been very friendly to the gay community. And yet, because she says women are women and men are men and you can't transition, biology is biology, she got majorly canceled. And, there was a big uproar about her, and they tried to cancel her. Of course, they couldn't, but they really tried. I mean, the hate that was sent her way was treacherous. And, so that alienates them from most society, who just believes XX is woman, XY is man. That's it, period, end of story. That's how most of society believes. They would like to make you think that a lot more of society believes in trans or, transgenderism or whatever than actually do. But the fact is, no, most people do not believe that way. A large majority of people do not believe that way. That's very evident in this last election with Trump. So I just wanted to, express to my kids that I'll support you and love you in anything, but I'm not going to encourage the gay lifestyle in you. And, even if I love you and accept you in whatever you identify with, I'm not going to agree to things that I don't believe are scientifically sound or factually inaccurate. Like, I'm not going to believe that a girl can change into a boy or a boy can change into a girl. It's just factually untrue to believe that. But like when my daughter changed her name and she went from, the name that I gave her, which was her grandmother's name, to several other names, the last one she was stuck on for a while, for 2 years, Jamie, I got tattooed on my arm, respecting her choice to change her name and have her own identity. I'm fine with that. That's good. I'll support that. What I won't do is agree that something that isn't possible is possible. That makes me sound retarded. I don't want to be known as somebody who's not intelligent, somebody who just goes along with the next thing, who jumps on board with the next fad, who, is led by whatever agenda is popular or whatever agenda seems popular at the time. I am authentic. I want to be respected for who I am. I don't want to have to change to be accepted for, everybody else, what they want me to be. And that's something that me and trans people have in common. Trans people want to be loved and respected for who they are. They don't want to have to change to be loved and respected. Same here. So in that aspect, we have something in common. And that's all I wanted to express to my kids. Yes, I will have ChatGPT help me with my article that I write about this, just because my grammar, spelling, or punctuation is off sometimes. Just like if I was Stephen King and I wrote a manual for a book, for a book, if I sat there and wrote a manuscript, 1,200 pages, it wouldn't be perfect, right? I would need help. And what I would do if I was Stephen King or J.K. Rowling or anybody else who sells a massive amount of books, I would finish my manuscript, be all my thoughts, all my ideas, all my inspiration, all my research, all my whatever. But I would take that manuscript and I would pass it off to an editor, and then I'd pay them some, percentage or some fortune of money to correct everything so it's legible and readable and proper and, well put in all ways. And then they would release it with the edits, right? But they wouldn't just release Stephen King's manuscript as he wrote it. And so since I can't afford an editor, you look at my internet archive, I've wrote over 4,000 articles long before ChatGPT existed, and 2 books. And one of my books was published in 1999. And before that, I wrote a series of poetry that was published before 1996. One of my poems was even on my brother's funeral program in 2002. So I write. I'm good at writing. I love writing. But being that I write so much and I don't get paid for it, it's just my hobby, or, it's my journal. It's what I do in my spare time. I don't have the resources to go pay an editor like Stephen King does every time he writes a manuscript. So ChatGPT is my editor. Anyway, these are my thoughts. You can hear it with my words, and that's what I have to say to my children and to anybody else dealing with this issue, both parental alienation or transgender kids or the LGBT thing that's going on in the world today. In my opinion, and I've said this since 2021, is that this trans thing is a fad and it will cool off. I predicted it, and then it happened. In 2022, it started cooling off. In 2023, it started majorly cooling off. They did a study on it in 2024, and they show that it halved in 2 years. So it surged, it doubled in size, and then it halved, and it went back down to its normal, natural, regular amounts. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it.